Hello and welcome. I am Carrie Klataski, reading to you Becoming and Belonging, Supporting the Healthy Social Emotional Development of the Young Child by the WeCan Early Childhood Research Group, edited by Holly Katine Soleil. Today we are reading Chapter 3, Beholding the Child. A 4-year-old little boy who had overheard a conversation from his older brother wanted to explain something to me. He said, "Did you know that you have a brain that is on both sides of your head?" I said. "How do you know that?" He replied without any hesitation, "Because my angel helped build me. That's how I knowed." Be, a prefix. On, around, over. We might say on all sides, all around. Hold, verb. To grasp. We often use hold, connotating to foster, to cherish, or to keep watch over. Behold, a verb. While this literally means to perceive in sight or apprehension, we also use it in the imperative, especially to call attention. We derive a similar connotation from the Greek eido, as it is used in the Bible, translated to English as behold. Eido literally translates as be sure to see. We could also understand it as don't miss this. Behold. Allow the eyes of the heart to be focused and enlightened. Beholder, a noun, one who sees. We also understand that the beholder experiences an awakening, an awareness of what they are looking at. To be a beholder, you must pay attention, become a knower with your heart. What mood do we need so that the eyes of our heart can open to a deeper perception that will allow us to behold a child? When we behold or contemplate a child, there is a fragile balance between our immediate impressions and what lies below the surface as a mystery yet to be revealed. Our commitment to this mood on behalf of the developing child helps us develop our capacities as teachers. When we share this work with our colleagues in a caring circle, it also enhances our sense of community with one another. Janusz Korczak, a physician, educator, writer, and universal humanist, gives us some good advice in the books on how to care for children. He confesses at the beginning of one of his books, "I don't know anything. Readers who expect answers, put this book away. Those who are looking for questions are who this book is written for." Dr. Korczak speaks about absorbing the quality of the wondrous creative. I don't know. He goes on to say that we must learn to love and take to heart this I don't know as a creative activity. As the Sufi poet Rumi says, "Sell your cleverness, buy bewilderment." Here are some important questions to consider when doing a child contemplation with a caring circle of teachers. Can I live with questions? Can I bear these questions in my heart? Can I let these questions have an effect on me? Can I find the language that is concealed within the child and let it speak to me? The child is a riddle, partly known, partly unknown. Considering these wide-open questions can open a wellspring of fresh understanding. Growing our own potential to observe precisely in this way leaves the child free. We can cultivate a renewed approach by developing an inner seeing with which to genuinely perceive the child, mixing a blend of patience and openness, along with accepting that we will not know all of the answers right away, frees us from making hasty conclusions about a child. We can hold hope for what we do not yet know, bearing the questions with enthusiastic endurance. The old saying, "All good things take time," is advice to keep close. This soul mood can develop into a transformative sense organ that supports the child in their belonging. Approaching the mystery. If you want a friend, tame me. What must I do to tame you? Asked the little prince. You must be very patient, replied the fox. First, You will sit down on the grass a little distance from me. I shall look at you out of the corner of my eye, and you will say nothing. Words are the source of misunderstandings, but every day you will be able to sit a little closer to me. Many of the little friends coming to us now are struggling. Children may have obstacles in their life path. Anxiety and stress, along with the fast pace of our world, can compromise the child's everyday experiences. But we can take the fox's clear instructions to the little prince about patience and the time and understanding it takes to approach him to heart, gives and reach out to these children with an empathetic attitude. Henning Kohler, in his book Working with Anxious, Nervous, and Depressed Children, says, "We must stand at the child's side with a waiting attitude. Simply be there, patient." Kohler gives us the same advice that the fox gives the little prince. True interest and attention know how to wait. There are an increasing number of children today who have difficulties feeling at home in their bodies. Often this presents itself as a disturbance in the child's foundational senses. Instability in the senses of touch, balance, and self-movement can shake a child's sense of well-being. Trauma can shake a child's confidence in existence so that the ways of the world simply do not make sense. Other children seem to carry a kind of restless search for something they cannot quite grasp or take hold of. They seem dissatisfied and needy. They seem to suffer from some sort of lack, a coldness that needs warming, a trauma that needs healing, a trust that needs to be reestablished, or some other mystery yet to be discovered. These children can also exhibit an extraordinary strength of will, yet often their will can be obscured by fear, defiance, and even a deep sorrow springing from their essential being. This veil of aberrant behavior often makes a noble destiny. Every human being is on a pilgrimage, a wanderer who has come to the earth with purpose, resolve, and a mission to fulfill. We are walking on sacred ground here and must tread with humble footing. With each encounter, we have the opportunity to take in the child's situation with an open heart and all the depth of our capacities, forming a caring circle. What does it mean to focus and give our deep interest to one young human being? Should we call this process a child study? Study means a devotion of time and attention to acquiring knowledge on an academic subject. If we carefully consider our words in describing the practice of giving dedicated time and conscious effort to understanding a child, a more accurate term would be the word contemplation. Contemplation, a noun, an act of considering with attention, the act of regarding steadily. Perhaps the contemplation describes our intentions more accurately than study in trying to form a supportive companionship with the child. When the decision is made to contemplate and hold a child in community, a compassionate circle of teachers comes together who want to behold, guide, and become active on the child's behalf. If we work together out of generosity and love for a child, we model the realm of the angels. In a way, we are emulating what the angels do in utmost selflessness for us. But this kind of process can only be accomplished through intensive commitment among those teachers who are beholding the child. The ultimate question may be, what does it feel like to be this child? A raw openness is needed as the community of teachers holds an inner mirror that reflects back to them the child's situation. When we strive to contemplate the child, we must become radically honest with ourselves as educators and ask what it is we might need to overcome ourselves in ourselves. Is there something holding us back from finding our way to the child? Do we have a complete and utter yesness, an unconditional acceptance of the child? Do we have the kind of yesness that starts where the child is and not where we wish them to be? Can we take into consideration the intentions that the child so earnestly brings? Original intentions have to do with the essence of the will in each individual human being and the resolve to incarnate and integrate the heavenly into the earthly with the help of higher powers. The original intentions we all carry shine above us as a star that guides us on our way. The three kings followed the most radiant star to find the Christmas child and bring their sacramental offerings. Rudolf Steiner stated in a lecture on the three magi, "To be led by a star means nothing else than to see the soul itself as a star." How can we find the sacramental mirror in ourselves that will lead us to recognize the child star? What gifts will we have to offer? What gifts is the child bringing? This verse by Herbert Hahn, a teacher in the first Waldorf schools, might be helpful to prepare the contemplative mood in a caring circle. It will indeed come to be for us a necessity that we observe the children day by day, and also exercise in ourselves day by day control of our own thoughts and feelings. Every child has a subtle perception of whether the person looking after him or her, or teaching him or her, is inwardly equipped in their soul. The child's well-being depends to a great extent on what is growing and developing in the inner soul of the person in charge. Develop your keenness of observation. Nurture the powers of your inner being. Develop vitality of thinking, depth of feeling, strength of willing. This verse is an amazing one to contemplate when beginning to look into the world of the child. It's so interesting that Herbert Hahn would emphasize that the child's well-being depends upon the inner striving of the child. It is true that when we try to understand and contemplate the child, we are immediately faced with the question of whether genuine perceptions can be born in us that will give us the possibility of accompanying the child on their journey, or as Henning Kohler so eloquently states when talking about the child, as the guest looking for the way. Non-judgmental objectivity needs to be paired with reverential attention. All naming and psychologizing of symptoms and behaviors must be laid aside in the minds of the teachers so that the inspiration waiting to be heard behind these symptoms and behaviors can be recognized. This kind of hearing is planted like a seed in the hearts of educators. It is as if one were trying to listen to what the child's angel is revealing to us. After this initial gesture of listening has taken place, a living imagination of the child's situation may arise. Through the child contemplation process, colleagues who are part of the caring circle share their observations and images, and together the group can begin to create a healing picture. Often, the children who come to us have obstacles in their life path and are calling for our unreserved help. At every step on this journey, we need to ask ourselves, is the process becoming frozen with too many set concepts? Is the process becoming too rigid and formulaic, or too loose with no form at all? When holding a human being in the warm embrace of a group of teachers, it is essential to make sure the process remains active and alive. Unfolding the contemplation. Some aspects to consider. The Calendar of the Soul by Rudolf Steiner is a helpful place to begin. There is a verse for every week of the year which can be matched to the child's birth week. This suggests a kind of spiritual geography, the essence of the time the child chose to be born. The etymology of observe is interesting. The original Latin is observare, which literally means to watch over. True observation means to keep safe and protect the child before us. Enkindling deep observation cultivates interest in the child. Everything about the child asks for our attention. The way the child moves, the way the child doesn't move, the sound of their voice, their gestures, everything. Each day we can notice something our senses did not show us the day before. Look at the child. What stands out for you? Notice everything about the child. Nothing is unimportant. Rudolf Steiner indicates that through the intensive study of the physical configuration of the body, characteristics of the soul are revealed. To take a deep interest in the physical description of the child with an absolute devotion to the little things is enthusiastically emphasized by Steiner. He says, "We must not omit to cultivate this interest in very little things. The tip of the ear, the paring of a fingernail, a single human hair, should be every bit as interesting to us as Saturn, sun, and the moon." Can we observe in such a way that after we watch the child move, we can imitate the movement, feel it in our own body, and begin to sense and experience what it feels like to be that child? Looking from the outside and observing the child and then bringing what is seen into one's own experience may guide us to an insightful understanding. Can we walk just like the child does, imitate their facial expressions to see what that feels like? Here, we are doing what the child does for us. They imitate us unconsciously. We imitate the child's movement consciously to see what it feels like to be them. Bringing into our own body what the child does will speak to us and give us impressions of their true self. Behaviors give an interesting perspective. Every behavior is a communication to the teacher. Through their behavior, the children are often trying to tell us something. Tantrums can express feeling totally overwhelmed. Refusal could possibly be triggered by a fear of doing what is being asked or extreme anxiety. Every behavior speaks to us. We can ask, what is the child trying to tell us beneath the behavior they are exhibiting? Paying special attention to when the behaviors occur can also be revealing. Are they falling apart before snack because their blood sugar has dropped? Or is a child refusing to do what is asked at transitions because of high anxiety? Every behavior that a child exhibits is valuable in gaining a deeper perception. With children 7 years old and younger, considering how the 4 foundational senses of touch, self-movement, balance, and well-being live in the child can give us much needed information. If you want to know more about the foundational senses and the fuller treatment, look at Chapter 4. Observing how the child plays gives us a deeper sense of the inner life. What do they like to play? Do they prefer to play alone, or does the child invite others to participate in their play? Do they prefer during creative playtime or talking to adults? Listen to the child's voice. Does it seem too loud, too soft, harmonious? How is their articulation, the flow of their breath? Does the voice have a high or a low pitch? Do they gasp for air when they speak? Do they stutter, elongate words? Rudolf Steiner is quoted in The Therapeutic Eye by Peter Selg as telling us how beneficial it is for the teacher to train their own hearing as they listen to the voice of the child. He goes on to say that we can spiritually train our hearing so that when we listen to the child speak, we can begin to grasp insight into the essential nature of the child. If the teacher can have conversation with parents, then that information can add a more comprehensive view of the child. It is always interesting to know as much as possible about the sleeping and waking life of the child. These 2 thresholds between sleep and waking hold many mysteries and give hints about the constitution of the child. Is the child a restless or a light sleeper? Or does she sleep so soundly that she's hard to wake? Does she chirp like a little bird, happy in the morning and ready for breakfast upon waking? Or is she edgy, nervous, and unable to eat until later? The kind of sleep a child has or does not have deeply affects how their day is lived out. Nutrition is also a key factor in the behavior and energy of the child and can be quite significant. Another thing to consider is there is a fairy tale that describes the child's life situation? When we picture where the child is and bring our imagination to that picture, we may find a fairy tale that connects with the child's soul. It can give an image of where the child is symbolically on their journey. Is the child in a hollow tree? Is the child hiding in a clock case? Did their golden ball just fall into the well? See the section on fairy tales in chapter 12. Another way to work symbolically, for example, would be to see the child as an image from nature. The first part of the contemplation occurs at the first meeting of the carrying circle. It is advisable to continue with a second session within a few days or a week. Taking this pause allows all of these impressions to be taken into our sleep. All of the necessary ingredients, the observations, the listening, and the empathetic engagement in the process are brought together. We can ask for assistance from our spiritual helpers so that what we have gathered may be transformed into a deeper understanding. Sleep is the little brother of death, it is said, and if we can bring our thoughts of the child into sleep with us, we open ourselves to the possibility of inspiration. This activity can create a hallowed space in our souls, a kind of safe inner manger where the child's being can find the way to us. The second session can begin with sharing the impressions of the child that came out of this work in sleep life. Then the biography and developmental milestones of the child can be shared. The reason the biographical information is not shared before this time is that it often tends to color the picture of the child so strongly that it may affect the open-mindedness needed during the descriptive contemplation and the sleep work. It may cause us to jump to conclusions too soon before receiving and penetrating our observations. Assessments or screenings that have been done can be presented along with the child's drawings. Then, as many threads that have been gathered are woven together into a tapestry that offers the possibility of leading the teacher to what Henning Kohler calls true inner accompaniment. At this stage of the process, suggestions and ideas are discussed. It may be that no definite solutions are offered, but the teacher stands by the child with a revived and renewed effort. Even when there are no concrete ideas, we remember that solutions are not the primary goal of the contemplation. It is out of the inner effort of the teachers involved in the contemplation and their striving to expand and stretch their own being to make room for the child that new understanding can arise. It is as if the child's star begins to shine inside of us. It is though the grace of this activity that we can now gaze back at the child with a new perspective that allows the child a free space in which to move and grow. The contemplation can close with the calendar of the soul or whatever verse the carrying circle would like to bring. A few quiet moments after this are always welcome to digest this process and to send gratitude to the child and all who participated. That is chapter 3.